Ballard was looking at the dark night through a crack in the curtains. Every once in a while, a pale white lightning bolt would light up the sky. He seemed to be enjoying it.
お？なんだよ。バトラが騒がしくしてるからマリアが起きちゃったじゃねえか。ごめんな、マリア。バトラが騒がしくて。
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to apologize, Ballard, for that. I'm sure that you had a great dream.
なんだよ、俺のせいかよ。悪いな、マリア。寝てていいぞ。おやすみな。
Maria was looking a bit hazy, with drowsy eyes. She was probably still half asleep, and couldn't think straight.
もういい。寝ない。
いいから寝てろって。まだ寝ぼけてるぜ。
寝ぼけてない。
なんだよ、もろに寝ぼけてるじゃねえか。寝てろ寝てろい。
寝ぼけてない。寝ぼけてない。
よせってバカバトラ。もう寝起きのこの機嫌を悪くするなんてバカだな。
寝ぼけてない。寝ぼけてない
もん。わかってるよ、マリアちゃん。寝ぼけてなんかないよ。だから落ち着いて。寝ぼ
けてないもん。寝ぼけてないもん。
Maybe it was because of her dubious mental state after waking up, but Maria suddenly threw a tantrum. Yeah, I guess so. I can see why she doesn't want to fall asleep, like, once again. She doesn't want to think of that dream. You would think that Maria would make it easy on Ballard and say that, oh, she doesn't want to sleep like once again because she doesn't want to have that dream again. In Ballard's mind, he had only been teasing her a little bit, so he was taken aback by this extreme overreaction. George hugged her and held her hand, trying to calm her down, but Maria's tantrum wasn't quelled easily. Ballard and Jessica were trying to push the blame on each other, saying, "It's your fault! No, it's your fault too!"
こら、二人とも静かにして。ジェシカちゃん、ポットにまだお湯があったよね。お茶でも入れてあげてくれる？落ち着いた？マリアちゃん。
It looked like her tantrum was dying down bit by bit. She was still glaring at Ballard, who had made fun of her, with sharp eyes.
バトラー君もふざけて言っただけなんだよ。マリアちゃんが寝ぼけてるなんて思ってないよ。だから落ち着いて。ね。
George noticed. Maria was staring at Ballard with incredible eyes. And, despite having just displayed all that emotion, she laughed in a small voice. Instead of a laugh, it seemed more like she was muttering while savoring. Or else counting each he. As though each time she said he, she was making something brutal happen over and over. I guess you could say that she was counting the number of times Rosa died in her dream/nightmare/magical claim. George felt something creepy for a split second, but he wasn't able to notice the madness that, for a brief moment, peeked out at the depths of the girl's eyes. After remaining spaced out for a short period of time, Maria stopped her bizarre quiet laugh and pushed George's arm inside, as though telling him to let go.
許す。
そう。マリアちゃんは偉いな。バトラ君、マリアちゃんが許してくれたよ。仲直りして。
悪いな、からかって。 許してくれ。
ほら、マリア。仲直りの印にカフェオレ作ってやったぜ。砂糖いっぱい入ってるから甘いぜ。
いらない。でも許すよ。魔女だからね。
One more time, Maria laughed in a creepy, quiet voice. But it was only for a very short time, so Better and Jessica didn't think much of it. They decided to think that, probably, it had only looked that way for an instant, when a flash of lightning had lit up her cheek with a pale white lightning. Then, they heard the sound of loud and hasty footsteps rushing towards them from the hall. It was already about 10:30 at night. A time that could safely be called late at night. Hearing footsteps like that at this time was not very peaceful. Then, along with a clearly disquieting and wild series of knocks, they heard Goda's and Kumasawa's voices. And that clearly told them that this was an abnormal situation. Oh good, the comedic duo of servants. Maybe they can light up the mood around here.
お子様方、いらっしゃいますか。いらっしゃいますか。ゴーダでございます。
熊沢でございますよ。ご無事でございますか、皆さん。はあ、どうしたものやら、どうしたものやら。
When George opened the door, the two of them tumbled in, sopping wet. Man, like what happened? You two look as if somebody got murdered. It looked like they had dashed here from the mansion without an umbrella.
どうしたんだよ、二人とも。
Oh, okay, well now they take into account how people get wet when they go outside, eh?
何があったんだ。
それが親方様が、旦那様が、皆様方が。
It was a pitch black room. There were no windows, and by the light from the wick bulb, one could only just barely make out the state of things around them. It appeared to be an old, forgotten, dusty underground storehouse, with some kind of furniture haphazardly thrown into it. However, even with just a little light, one could at least tell that it probably wasn't a storehouse, because that room was sealed off with iron bars.
ここはどこなの？
わからん。ここは屋敷の地下なのか。食堂の真下にこんな部屋があったのか。
They had been dropped into what had appeared to be a pit, and fallen into this room. Therefore, it would be appropriate to think that this room was directly below the dining hall. However, not even Kraus could bring himself to believe that there were pitfalls rigged in the below dining hall, where he had enjoyed his meals for years. And that directly below it was this dungeon-like room. But the ceiling, when they looked up, was made of rugged stone, and they could not understand from where in that ceiling they could have fallen. No. All 5 people who had been dropped here thought the same thing. Although they had felt the sensation of being dropped into a pit, there was no way there could be pitfalls in the dining hall, nor could this dungeon-like place be directly underneath it. But, in point of fact, they had fallen into this place and were locked in. And so they were confused.
あの高さから落ちて誰も怪我をしなかったのは幸運かもしれませんな。シャン、カノン、君たちはこんな部屋の存在は知っていたかね。
いいえ、僕たちもこのような部屋のことは存じかねます。
本当に？本当です。 本当にこの部屋知りません。
His indicator thought that there was a good chance that, despite their age, they might know the mansion's secret tricks as servants permitted the one-winged eagle. There was a long silence, as if evaluating their answer. Well, no doubt Shannon and Kanon are gonna be suspected by the rest of here. Like, they are gonna be suspected of knowing this room, since in their eyes, they were part of Kinzo's killing spree. Like hell, they were sitting there in silence while the murder happened, so there is something to be questioned there. I mean, yeah, I guess so. Like, one could say that pitfalls exist, so that can help us unlock through the mysteries, but like, I don't know, or at the very least, the ones that involve the dining room. Like, we could say that the dining room has pitfalls, but I don't know, like, this might be a magic claim. And the existence of pitfalls can easily be denied by red shoes, so I'm not gonna take this at face value yet.
いや、シャノンたちが知らないのは事実だろう。何しろ綺麗好きのシャノンだ。彼女がこの部屋を知っていたなら、もっとピカピカに磨き上げているだろう。この部屋の汚さが、君たちがこの部屋を知らないことの証だ。今はそんなことより、これからどうするかの方が先決だと思わんかね。その通りです。警察に、いえ、それから救急にも早く電話をしなければ。
Nanjo's words rang hollow. Obviously, 6 people had been killed in the dining room. They had all witnessed the exact moments when the 6 had been killed. And what's more, he had been done by half destroying their heads. Anyone could tell with just a single glance that they had been dealt a fatal injury. Everyone understood that calling for an ambulance now would be, well, completely meaningless.
ありがとう、南條先生。私たちは伴侶がもう生きてはいないことを理解できてる。気休めでも救急と言い添えてくれてありがとう。
夏希。
Once again, an oppressive silence took control of them. Bakarao shook his head harshly over and over, and decided just for now to forget the pain of losing his wife, and dedicate himself to figuring out where they were.
みんな聞きたまえ。親父はもうダメだ。口で言って理解や説明が求められる段階にもうない。
Nobody answered. Without any kind of discussion or mercy, 6 people had been killed in an instant. And Kinzo had so boldly proclaimed for them to become sacrifices in a 13-person murder ritual. Since they had been locked up in this place, they too would probably become the ritual's next sacrifices before long. Around this time, their eyes were becoming used to the darkness, and bit by bit, they were starting to be able to make out the dungeon's interior. What they thought was furniture haphazardly left in the dungeon turned out not to be furniture at all. They were small cages that could be used to imprison a single person, restraining tables, or were those torture racks? At any rate, it was obviously more ghastly than a mere jail cell. Since those objects were rusted and covered in thick layers of dust, there was no doubt that they had been long forgotten. Maybe you could even have called those things Kinzo's sealed and forgotten madness. However, it was this room in which they had now been locked away. Those objects weren't exactly comforting. Those objects weren't exactly comforting to people who were locked up, hoping to be released without harm.
とにかくここを抜け出そう。 私たちは伴侶や友人を失い、涙を流すことに時間を費やしたいが、今はそれ以上に子供たちの身が心配だ。
お子様方はご無事でしょうか。
祈るしかない。そういえば熊沢さんと郷田さんはここにはいないな。
ひょっとすると無事に逃げ延びられたのかも。
かもしれませんな。子供たちと合流しててくれれば心強いのですが。
郷田さんはいざという時頼りになるし、熊沢さんは経験豊富で落ち着いてるし、きっと力になってくれると思います。
そうだといいがな。
Shan and Kao smiled bitterly a little, but they quickly realized how improper that was, and stopped, clearing their throats.
楽観はできないよ、姉さん。僕らに続いてもう襲われてしまってる可能性だってある。
同感ね。お父様が食堂で執行したのは魔女の碑文の第1の番の6人殺しなんでしょ。なら第2の番は寄り添いし2人を引き裂け。逃げ隠れて寄り添っている郷田さんと熊沢さんがもう殺されている可能性だって否定できないわ。きっとゲストハウスに合流してて子供たちを守ってくれているなんて楽観、現時点では全くできないわよ。
Kirie coldly analyzed the worst case scenario. Even for her, it was heartbreaking to have lost her beloved husband. But right now, the most important thing was protecting that husband's son, along with the other children, from becoming sacrifices to the insane family head. She overcame her sadness with a parental urge to protect the children. It seemed that both Kirie and Kraus were strong enough to forget their grief, if only for the time being. They could let their tears flow later. For now, in order to protect the children, they had to act.
とにかくここを脱出しよう。相当古い牢屋のようだ。なんとか鉄格子を破れないだろうか。室内をくまなく探して脱出手段を探してみよう。
ここにはガラクタがいろいろあるわ。何か役に立ちそうな道具とか落ちてないかしら。武器になるものがあるかもしれないし、鉄格子を破れるものがあるかもしれない。
Kirie pulled a lighter from her pocket. She herself didn't smoke, but she kept one tucked away in her pocket to light Runo's cigarettes. It was an extremely valuable source of light for searching through this dim dungeon.
シャノンはキリエさんを手伝い、室内を探索してくれ。カノンは私と一緒に鉄格子の具合を確かめてみよう。これだけ古い牢屋だ。ひょっとするとガタが来ているかもしれない。私は何をお手伝いしましょうかな。体力を温存していてください。やがてここに親父殿が現れるだろう。親父殿に言葉が届くのは南條先生だけです。ある意味、南條先生に我々の命は握られているかもしれない。私の言葉などもう届きはせんでしょう。申し訳ないが、そのお役には立てそうにない。
なら南條先生のお医者としての知識を貸してください。人間を即座に混沌させるような毒って存在するのかしら。
人間を即座に混沌させる毒？どういうことですか？
私たちは落とし穴に落とされてこの地下牢に落ちてきたと信じている。あの混乱している場で私たちはそうだったろうと信じたわ。でもこの地下牢の広さを測ってみて分かった。この地下牢があの食堂の地下というのはありえないことなのよ。
どうしてありえないってわかるんですか？
姉さんはバカだな。この地下牢は食堂に比べて狭すぎる。
その通り。1番目に落とされたのはクラウス兄さん、2番目が私。クラウス兄さんは この部屋に落ちてきた時その場を動いたかしら。
お恥ずかしながら落下の痛みでうめいていたよ。そのすぐ傍らに桐江さんがすぐに落ちてきたんだ。
食堂でのクラウス兄さんと私の立ち位置と落下時の落下場所の距離が明らかにおかしいのよ。
確かに言われてみればその通りです。その次に落ちたのは私だからお二人の位置関係はよく覚えている。食堂でのお二人の間の距離はこの部屋よりもあったかもしれない。
私たちは落とし穴に落ちてダイレクトにここに落下したわ。集合する下水道管みたいに一度集められてからここに落ちたわけじゃない。落下は一瞬だったでしょ。そんな凝った排水管みたいな穴を転がされた覚えはないわ。
確かに落とし穴では説明がつかんな。おかしな話だ。
それと桐江様のおっしゃる人間を即座に混沌させる毒というのはどう関係があるんですか？
桐江様は多分食堂に落とし穴なんかなかったとお考えなんじゃないかな。
しかし現に私たちは落ちたぞ。
落とし穴に落ちたような気がするが正解よ。無理もないわ。そうとしか例えられない体験だったから。
なるほど。つまりこうおっしゃいたいわけですな。私たちは落とし穴に落とされたのではなく、例えば毒矢のようなもので撃たれ瞬時に意識を失い、その倒れて床に突っ伏す瞬間の記憶をまるで落とし穴に落ちたよと思い込んでしまっているのかもしれないと。なるほど。食堂に無数の落とし穴が仕掛けられていて、我々がそれに何十年も気づかず食事をしていたとするよりはよほど説得力のある話だ。
Right. In human claim, like if we were to go with you guys disappearing and being sent here, then, being drugged is an option. Plus, if pitfalls truly do not exist, then, this is the next safest bet.
姉さん、時計はある？
うん。懐中時計があるわよ。22時40分くらいね。
僕の時計もそうなってる。つまり僕たちは食堂での大騒ぎから十数分も時間を経過させてないってことになる。
私の時計も同様だ。我々が混沌させられてどこかへ担ぎ込まれたと仮定するには時間の経過が短すぎる。時間だけを見るならやはり我々は食堂の真下へ落とし穴で落とされたと考えるのが妥当だ。
The watches can be changed, however, like, to make us think that you guys fell through some pitfalls. When in actuality, it is much, much later. So I don't know about that one. Like, if that were the case, I guess the reason for that is to hide how you guys actually were carried here, like, in some other way that you don't know. Like, through some secret entrance we are not aware of.
時計の針なんていくらでもいじれるわ。私たちが気絶している間に全員の時計を巻き戻したのかもしれない。
Yeah.
その可能性がなかったことは証明不能よ。
落とし穴にせよ混沌させる毒にせよ、私たちは用心するに越したことはないというわけですな。
それで南條先生、混沌させる毒は存在するんですか？
それは桐江さんの論法と同じですな。私の知らない未知の毒物にそういう効用のものがないとは証明できません。
用心に越したことはないということね。ごめんなさい。無駄な質問だったわ。ただ、 私の仮説により、この地下牢が食堂の真下とは限らないという可能性は示唆できたと思う。
なるほど。広大な森の中のどこかに隠されていると噂される。親父殿の隠し屋敷の地下牢に運び込まれている可能性もある。ここを脱出して外へ出ればそれもわかる。それを詮索するのはここから出てからでもいいだろうな。
その通りね。本当にごめんなさい。さっきから無駄な質問と詮索ばかりだわ。
いや、とても頼もしいよ。今後も何かに気づいたら教えてくれたまえ。ここを脱出する何かのヒントになるかもしれない。ルドルフからいつも聞かされていたよ。君の発想にはいつも驚かされ、時には重要なヒントにもなるとね。君がここにいてくれたのは不幸中の幸いだ。
ありがとう。私もルドルフさんに聞いてるわ。クラウス兄さんは普段は威張っているけれど、いざという時は責任感にあふれる頼りがいのある兄だって。
さすがにそれは世辞が過ぎるね。くそ。それにしても頑丈な鉄格子だ。カノンの方はどうかね。
いいえ、こちらも全く。
Kraus and Kanon tried wiggling each of the bars in various ways. And there were a few bars that could be twisted, and a few felt like they had enough room to route around a little bit. And so they could not be broken with human strength alone. However, there was still hope if they could use some kind of lever-like tool. It was still far too early to give up yet. The children's lives were hanging in the balance. Even if there was no hope, they couldn't stop their struggle. And it was better even for them to act this way. If they were to stop, there was no doubt that they would once again be overcome by the grief of losing their loved ones, and crouch down, clutching their knees.
キリエさんたちの方はどうかね。何か見つかったかね。
握って隠せる程度の石ころは見つかるわ。こんなものでも武器にはなるかも。さすがに鉄格子を削り取ることは無理でしょうね。シャノンちゃんはどう？
いいえ、何も。あ、これ電話です。
つながってるわけもないわ。でもコードは何かを縛ったり武器にも使えるかも。壊して分解すれば金属部品を取り出せるわ。クラウス兄さん、鉄格子を開ける鍵穴はもちろんあるわよね。
ああ、だいぶ鍵穴の大きい大時代的なものだがね。針金のようなものでいじれば騙せるかもしれないな。
電話の金属部品で何か代用できるかもしれない。その電話武器になるわね。
投資と同じだよ。情報は武器だ。
Kraus and Kiria laughed together at this way of putting the phone to use, which didn't remotely look at it as a means of communication.
何やってんの、姉さん。
その電話つながってるかなって思って。
バカだな、姉さんは。
あれ？
Suddenly, Shana let out a small surprised cry.
キリエ様、この電話つながってます。
なんですって？
It was like when people move out of an office, taking everything with them, leaving only the telephone behind. And that's the thing the phone gave off, having been left in a corner of the cell. The cord was wound into a coil, one end of it being swallowed by the wall. And at a glance, it looked as if it could possibly be connected. But the thing that it actually was. Kiria took the receiver from Shannon and pressed it into her ear. The electric hum was certainly the one with which she was familiar. This phone was indeed live.
なんという幸運。
I don't know. I mean, for them to leave a phone like this, like right here, live too, on top of it, it's like they are trying to give us a false sense of hope or something. That or they are intentionally letting us use this phone in some way.
警察へ連絡しましょう。待ちたまえ。話がうますぎる。盗聴されているんじゃないのかね。
そんな細工するくらいなら普通は電話線を切断するわ。連中が本気で見落とした可能性が高い。気づかれたら今度こそ電話線を切断されるかもしれないわ。警察への通報を盗聴されて何も困ることはないのだし。
That did make sense. The point of a wiretap was to overhear some important information. The point of a wiretap was to overhear some important piece of information. But the way things were now, they could not think of a single thing that would come up in the conversation to the outside world that could be troublesome to have heard. Kitty instantly concluded it was more likely to be a mistake on Kenzo's part than a trap.
確かに一理あります。外線は確か0番からだ。
カノン君、私は電話するからあなたは外の様子を伺ってくれる？誰かが近づいてくる気配があったら知らせて。
はい。
Kano raced off towards the iron bars, silenced his breathing, and strained his ears. As everyone present watched her, Kitty had dialed 110. However, she pushed the hook down repeatedly and redialed. It didn't seem to be working very well.
外線は0番から ?110 番は0110じゃないの？うまくかからない。
貸したまえ。私がかけよう。
Kraus took the receiver in Kitty's place and tested various things. But in the end, they were unable to notify the police. The phone itself was definitely live, but the circuit was apparently cut somewhere. Well, you definitely cannot call anybody outside, but it could be possible that the phone is still live. For calls inside the mansion, that is. I mean, that could help us. Did this mean that they were not so naive?
やっぱり無理ですか。
敵も甘くはないってことね。
Kitty let out a deep sigh, leaned against the wall, and hung her head for a while. As tough a girl as she was, for a brief moment, she might actually have had the naive hope that the phone could actually work. She sneered at herself mockingly for holding on to that naive hope for even one moment. And then, she thought back upon just what was happening here. Honestly, despite having been shown such a thing right before her eyes, or rather, exactly because of that, she still could not think of that gruesome mass murder as something real. It was less that she couldn't believe it, and more that she didn't want to. Ushiromiya Kenzo had killed 6 members of his family. He had summoned strange, witch-like, demon-like people right out of thin air. And with something like magic, he had begun to kill people one after another. Too much to handle. Even though she definitely saw it, there was no way she could accept that spectacle.
そんなことあるわけがない。あれはきっとお父様の友人か何か。それがあらかじめ食堂のどこかに隠れていて、手品的に突然姿を現して私たちを驚かせただけなんだわ。そう考えなくちゃあのめちゃくちゃを説明できない。
when those six had their heads blown apart, a golden arrow had flown around and around the room. That truly looked like magic. Was that another thing we just saw wrong? There's no way it was magic. There must be some kind of trick to it. Since it was capable of smashing heads, there's no doubt it was some explosive. For example, a styrene toy plane like they sell at the candy stores, painted gold, and with a powerful explosive loaded onto it, like at the end of it. That said, at a glance, it had seemed to be flying at random. Kirie couldn't imagine that such a thing could be fired 6 times, and each time perfectly hit the victim square in the head, one after the other. Surely, its flight wasn't computer controlled to seek out and deliver precise hits on its targets, which would make it a high-tech styrene plane on the same level as a guided missile?
そんなバカバカしい仕掛けを膨大な私費を投じて作らせたと？あのおかしな余興のために？お父様ならやりかねないって？
A number of mysterious people had appeared suddenly out of thin air. 6 people had had their heads demolished by a mysteriously golden flying object, and the 5 of us were locked away in a mysterious dungeon by a mysterious set of pitfalls, where I was put to sleep by some fainting poison dart. The family conference started a bit after 10 PM. It's only been about 30 minutes since then. Probably those events, which took place in such a short amount of time, none of us are able to understand, nor come to grips with, even though we witnessed them ourselves. Like, even if we did get a hold of the police, it would probably be impossible for any of us to accurately explain what we saw. I may only just have witnessed it, but my brain's fried, and I have no confidence even in what I myself saw. Kirie had to try her hardest to rouse herself from her overwhelming confusion, just to hold on to her sanity.
くそ、どうなってるんだ。くそ、くそ。
Kraus started to become desperate, hitting the hook multiple times, and redialing over and over. He too was feigning composure, but was unable to hide his panic. The more he redialed, the more the pretense of serenity peeled away. None of this makes any sense. Kirie couldn't help but pray that the events that had just occurred were no more than a dream. Suddenly, the look on Kraus's face changed.
呼び出してる。呼び出してるぞ。コール音がする。本当ですか、クラウスさん。
Oh?
なるほどな。親父め、浅はかな。警察に連絡されまいと外部への電話線は切断したらしいが、内線は切断し損ねている。
内線？クラウスさんはどこにかけているの？
ゲストハウスだ。ジェシカたちの部屋の内線番号にかけている。
Okay, well that's actually good.
もしもし。もしもし。私だ。お前は誰か。ゴーダか。ジェシカはいるか。無事か。
旦那様。ご無事でよかった。はい。ジェシカお嬢様たちも皆さんご無事です。
父さんなの？無事でよかった。
Oh my goodness. This can actually lead us somewhere. Valor, come here real quick.
母さんは無事なの？
Come here and listen on this.
そこにいるの？
Kraus choked on his words. Kraus had clearly seen Natsu's head crushed. Had seen her killed right before his eyes. Eventually, he was going to have to tell that to Jessica. However, Kraus began to fret over whether he should tell her this very moment, and lost his words. But even that was an answer under this. But even that was an answer under these circumstances.
母さんはわからない。無事を祈ろう。今はお前だけでも無事でよかった。
分かってるよ。聞いてごめん。
Jessica's voice was filled with tears. There was no doubt for Kraus anymore. And Jessica and the others had been told everything, start to finish, by Goda and Kumasawa when they had met up at the guest house. After they learned that 6 whole people had been killed, Jessica and the others must have been in frenzy about wanting to go to the dining hall. Luckily, he had been able to call before they stormed off towards the mansion. Kraus was relieved at his good timing during such tragedy.
ここには今、キリエさんと南條先生、それにシャノンとカノンがいる。地下牢のようなところに閉じ込められているが、心配するな。こっちは父さんたちで何とかする。
地下牢？どこ？助けに行く。
あいにく、私たちにもここがどこだか見当もつかん。食堂の真下だと思っているが、そうでないかもしれない。とにかくジェシカ、そこを出てはならん。ゴーダたちから経緯は聞いているか？
うん。小さなみんな去って。
おじい様は今正常な状態にない。出くわせば危険だ。殺されるかもしれない。私たちを助けに来ようなどと絶対に思ってはならんぞ。こっちはこっちで何とかする。
じゃあ私たちはどうすればいいの？小さなめ、よくも母さんたちを。あの死に損ないぶっ殺してやる。
ジェシカ、そんな言葉を使ったら母さんが悲しむぞ。レディーはそんな言葉を使うもんじゃない。とにかくお前たちは身の安全を最優先にしろ。ゲストハウスを戸締まりするんだ。しかし過信はできない。1階のラウンジの大窓は破られるかもしれない。その部屋にとどまりベッドを立てかけてバリケードにするんだ。その部屋にはトイレも冷蔵庫もあるな。明日の朝までは籠城できるはずだ。いいな。くれぐれも物騒なことは考えるな。母さんの仇を取ろうなんて絶対に考えるんじゃないぞ。相手を刺激せず隠れてやり過ごすことだけを考えるんだ。
分かったよ、父さん。
After that, Goda took the phone. I was told again to watch toward the children as a responsible adult. Goda repeatedly replied, "Yes, sir," in an overstrained voice, his face covered in cold sweat. From there, Kirie received the phone and spoke with Balor. And when Shannon and Kanon got their turn, George and Jessica answered. Okay, this is good. This is very good. Like we're getting a sense of the human claim here. Like the connections are being made here. And following that, Nanjo and Kumasawa picked up as well, so that all members of both sides had their turn on the phone, each encouraging the other and confirming that they were at least safer now, even if their location was unknown, and coming to a complete understanding of the current situation for both sides. They wanted to talk forever, but now was not the time to chat. Kraus told them that they would be hanging up for now, and those in the guest house agreed.
また何かあったら連絡する。すぐに受話器を取れるように待機していてくれ。くれぐれも用心してな。無茶なことは絶対にするんじゃないぞ。
分かったよ、父さんや。カノン君たちが無事だっただけでも儲けもんってやつ。私たちも頑張る。父さんたちもどうか。
ああ、もちろんだ。それでは一度切る。用心しろ。
With that, the phone call ended. Goda and the rest of the men quickly descended the stairs, closed the shutters, and secured the strong locks on the doors. Okay, well, since we had that phone call, there is definitely a clearer picture of the human claim. Like, I don't know. Like, unless we're talking about Kumasawa, Goda, Kraus, and the rest being in cahoots and like everything they said was nonsense. Unless all this is some kind of trap, then them being locked up somewhere unknown is truly what is going on both claims. So that can actually be good.